The Pentagon War Room, March 2003. 24 screens glow in the darkness. On the largest display, a genetic map pulses like a living organism, spreading across continents like blood through veins. A CIA analyst, clipboard in hand, addresses the assembled generals and strategists. The most successful biological conquest in history wasn't a weapon. It wasn't anthrax, smallpox, or any engineered pathogen. It was a man. The screen shifts. A weathered face stares out from 8 centuries past. Genghis Khan. 16 million men alive today carry his Y chromosome. That's one out of every 200 males on Earth. 0.5% of the global population descends directly from a single bloodline that began in the Mongolian steppes 800 years ago. The analyst pauses, lets the numbers settle over the room like fallout. This is not mythology. This is measurable genetic fact. And the question before us today is simple. How did he engineer it? The screen goes dark. Then light, Mongolia, spring of 1178. A boy of 16 stands at the edge of a river. His name is Temujin. He will not be called Genghis Khan for another 28 years. Right now, he is nothing. A minor chieftain's son from a scattered tribe standing in the mud staring at nothing. 4 months ago, raiders from the Merkid tribe took his promised bride. Her name was Borte. 17 years old. They took her in the night, a retaliation for an old grievance Temujin barely understood. For 4 months he has searched, called in favors, promised allegiances he could not afford. And now finally she stands before him, alive, pregnant. His advisors gather around him in the firelight that night. Older men hardened by decades of steppe warfare. Their message is unanimous. Kill her. She is tainted. The child is not yours. Send her back to her family or end it here. Either way, you cannot keep her. Temujin looks at Borte across the fire. Her hands rest on her swollen belly. She does not look at him. She stares into the flames. He speaks for the first time in hours. The child will be mine. The advisors protest. Blood matters. Lineage matters. The boy will be Merkid, not Mongol. He will divide loyalties, create questions, weaken your claim. Temujin stands. The firelight catches the angles of his young face. The child will be mine. The question is not blood. The question is loyalty. 9 months later, Borte gives birth to a son. They name him Jochi. Whose child? The name carries the question like a brand. Temujin legitimizes him without hesitation, raises him as firstborn. And in that choice, something fundamental shifts in his understanding of power. He watches the other tribes, watches how they celebrate victories, mourn defeats, bury their dead. The warriors die in battle or take their own lives rather than submit to conquest. But the women they endure, they adapt, they bear children. And those children grow up knowing who conquered their mothers. To other Khans, this is simply how things are. To Temujin, it is a pattern, a mechanism, something that can be refined, systematized, weaponized. Warriors conquer land, but wombs conquer time. Over the next 20 years, he rises, unites the fractured Mongol tribes through a combination of strategic marriages, tactical alliances, and ruthless elimination of rivals. He studies the systems of settled civilizations. Chinese dynastic marriages that spread imperial blood through vassal kingdoms. Islamic harems that produce sons for every province. Persian administrative bureaucracies that track lineages across generations. What if we industrialize this? What if we make it not an accident of war, but the purpose of it? Spring of 1206. The plains of Mongolia stretch to the horizon in every direction. Here in a place called Kurultai, the gathered chieftains proclaim Temujin as Genghis Khan, universal ruler. He is 44 years old. Among his retinue is a young Khitan scholar named Yelu Chukai, 26 years old, educated in Confucian classics and statecraft, captured by the Mongols during an earlier campaign, and spared because of his obvious intelligence. Over the next few years, he will become indispensable. In 1218, Genghis Khan summons him to his tent. You understand record-keeping, census, administration. Yes, great Khan, I want you to design a system, not for counting livestock or grain, for people, specifically women. I want to know before we attack a city how many women of childbearing age live there, their names, their families, their status. And after we take the city, I want a protocol. Capture classification processing integration. I want it efficient. I want it permanent. Yellow Chukai's brush hovers over the parchment. He looks up. Great Khan, you are describing something that has never been attempted at this scale. Exactly. We will not hold these territories through occupation. We cannot afford garrisons in every city from here to the sea. Instead, we will hold them through blood. Give me 10 years and 100,000 women. I will give you an empire that lasts 1,000 years. Genghis Khan stares at him for a long moment. Begin. The first test comes in 1209, the Tangut Kingdom, northwestern China, a prosperous realm of 50 cities. The Mongol army numbers 80,000 warriors. But before the first arrow is loosed, Yellow Chukai sends teams of scouts disguised as merchants, travelers, refugees. They count. They observe. They compile lists. By the time the siege begins, the Mongols know the name and location of nearly every woman between 14 and 40 in the capital city. The battle is swift, brutal, standard. What comes after is not. Processing stations appear outside the city walls, not for treasure or slaves in the traditional sense, for categorization. Mongol physicians, some conscripted from conquered peoples, examine each captured woman. Height, teeth, scars, signs of disease, questions about age of first menstruation, previous pregnancies, living children. Everything is recorded on scrolls. Each woman receives a designation, a number, a category. Primary reproducers, ages 14 to 30, no visible defects, high probability of successful pregnancy. Secondary reproducers, ages 31 to 40, preferably with proven fertility existing children as evidence. Disposal, under 14 over 40 signs of illness or infertility. The first and second categories are marked with ink on their wrists, loaded into wagons specifically designed for human transport. The third category disappears. In the first Tangut campaign, the Mongols capture approximately 50,000 women of reproductive age. Within 6 months, 58% are pregnant. Of those pregnancies, 34% result in live births of infants, judged to have sufficiently Mongol features to be integrated. Genghis Khan reviews the numbers with Yellow Chukai. Double the acceptable rate. Find better physicians. Improve the nutrition protocols. I want 60% viable births within 3 years. Yes, Great Khan. Among Genghis Khan's most trusted generals is a man named Subadai. They grew up together, fought together, bled together. Subadai is perhaps the greatest military tactician the Mongol army possesses, and he is deeply troubled. One night after a strategy session, he remains behind. Great Khan, may I speak plainly? Always this system, what we are doing with the captured women. I understand the strategic value. I understand the logic. But this is not warfare as we knew it. This is something else. Genghis Khan pours air egg into 2 cups, fermented mare's milk, the drink of their childhood on the steppes. You think this makes us slavers. I think it makes us something worse. Genghis Khan drinks, sets down his cup. Old friend, we are warriors. That is precisely why we must think beyond the battlefield. Our enemies will remember their defeats for decades. Their sons will sing songs of revenge. But their grandsons, if we do this correctly, their grandsons will be Mongols. They will sing our songs, worship at our shrines, fight in our armies, not because we force them, because they will know no other lineage. Subadai is silent. You are asking me to accept this. I am telling you why it must be done. Whether you accept it is between you and your conscience. Subadai accepts. Because he is loyal, because he is Mongol, because he has no alternative that does not end in his own death. But the weight of it settles on him like a physical thing, and it will never lift. Spring of 1220, the Tangut capital of Ningxia. The siege has lasted 3 months. The city is starving. And on a morning when the walls finally fall, a girl named Zarya stands in her family's courtyard, watching smoke rise from every direction. She is 14 years old. Her father was a royal scribe, taught her to read and write, a rare skill for a woman. He died in the first week of fighting. Her mother, Amara, holds her close as the sounds of slaughter echo through the streets. They are hiding in a storage cellar when the Mongol soldiers find them. Not by accident. One of the soldiers carries a scroll, unrolls it, reads aloud in broken Tangut, Household of Timur the scribe. Wife Amara, daughter Zarya, age 14. Literate, he looks directly at Zarya. You, come, her mother screams, claws at the soldiers. They pull them apart with practiced efficiency. Zarya catches one last glimpse of her mother's face twisted in anguish before she is dragged up the stairs and into the street. She is taken to a processing station set up in what used to be a marketplace. Hundreds of women stand in lines. Mongol physicians move among them. Scribes record everything. When it is her turn, a physician examines her quickly, professionally, without interest. Checks her teeth, asks about menstruation, notes her height, her build. A scribe writes it all down. Subject T-1220-N-4721. Zarya, age 14. Ningxia origin. Father deceased, mother status unknown. Literacy confirmed. Risk factor. Recommendation, standard processing monitor for subversion tendencies. She is marked with ink on her wrist. The number burns, not from pain, from the realization that she is no longer a name. She is data. They load her into a wagon with 20 other women and girls. The wagon has a canvas cover, wooden benches, bars on the windows. It smells of unwashed bodies and fear. As the caravan begins to move, rolling out of the burning city toward an unknown horizon, Zarya presses her face to the bars, tries to see if her mother is somewhere in the chaos. But there are too many people, too much smoke. She never sees her mother again. The caravan is a city on wheels, hundreds of wagons stretching for miles, each wagon categorized. Newly captured women in one section, pregnant women in another, women who have recently given birth in a third, and at the rear wagons that no one discusses. Disposal units. Zarya's wagon is labeled acclimatization. She will spend 2 months here, learning basic Mongol phrases, commands, reproductive vocabulary. They are fed regularly, better food than she had during the siege. The goal is not kindness, it is optimization. Healthy bodies produce healthier pregnancies. At night in the darkness, the women whisper to each other. A woman named Tuya, 19 years old, noble background, already 2 months pregnant from her husband, who died defending the walls. She speaks with the careful diction of education and privilege. They will take my child when it is born. Another woman, older, maybe 32, from a different city, a different campaign. Her name is Khatun. They will. I have been in this caravan for 2 years. I have given birth twice. Both times they took the baby after 3 days. I do not know where my children are now. I do not know if they are alive. Tuya begins to cry. Quietly. The kind of crying that knows screaming will accomplish nothing. Zarya listens, says nothing. But that night she tears a strip of fabric from the hem of her clothing, uses a piece of charred wood from the wagon floor, writes in Tangut script tiny characters that she hopes no Mongol will be able to read. Day 1. We are alive. We remember our names. She hides the fabric in the straw of her sleeping mat. It is the first entry in what will become a record of 2,000 women. Northern China, 1211. The Jin Empire. One of the most powerful states in East Asia. Cities of hundreds of thousands, libraries, universities. An army that should, by every conventional measure, be able to repel the Mongol invasion. They cannot. Genghis Khan's forces move like a scalpel, and behind them comes a system. Refined, improved, scaled. 100,000 women are captured in the first 2 years of the Jin campaign. Yelu Chukai's protocols are now so efficient that a single woman can be evaluated, categorized, and assigned to a caravan in under 15 minutes. Mobile processing stations operate like assembly lines. Physician, scribe, classification, mark, load. Next, every woman is tracked from the moment of capture. Scrolls record her origin city, her physical characteristics, her assigned wagon number. When she becomes pregnant, it is noted. When she gives birth, the infant is evaluated. Mongol features yes or no. If yes, the child is sent to a nursery wagon and eventually integrated into Mongol households. If no, the child is quietly disposed of. The mothers are returned to acclimatization wagons within 2 weeks. The cycle repeats. It is during the Jin campaign that a physician named Jahan is captured. He is Persian, 42 years old. From Samarkand, though, that city has not yet fallen to the Mongols. He was traveling through Jin territory as part of a merchant caravan when the Mongols overtook them. Most of the merchants were killed. Jahan, recognizing the Mongol script on the soldiers' banners, stepped forward and identified himself. I am a physician, trained in the traditions of Ibn Sina. I can be useful to you. They test him. Bring him a wounded soldier. A stomach wound infection setting in. Jahan works through the night, uses techniques from Persian medical texts, poultices, careful cleaning, herbal treatments. The soldier survives. Jahan is assigned to the caravan system. At first, he tells himself he is saving lives. The women are already captured. The system exists regardless of his participation. By being competent, by being skilled, he can reduce suffering, ensure healthier pregnancies, lower maternal mortality. This is what he tells himself. But the system has a way of eroding intention. After 6 months, he is no longer treating women. He is processing them, evaluating fertility, recommending dietary changes to increase ovulation rates, experimenting with herbal compounds mentioned in Arabic medical manuscripts, things that might stimulate the release of multiple eggs, increase the chances of twins. He writes detailed notes, documents his methods, success rates, complications. One night reviewing his own records, he realizes he has stopped using their names. They are subjects, case numbers, data points. When did that happen? A Mongol administrator visits his station, reviews his work. You are improving efficiency. The great Khan is pleased. Continue. Jahan bows, accepts the compliment, returns to his work. He is good at this, terrifyingly good. In 1215, after the fall of the Jin capital, Genghis Khan meets with Yelu Chukai to review the campaign's results. The tent is lit by oil lamps. Maps cover every surface. But the document Yelu presents is not a map. It is a ledger. 100,000 women captured, 60,000 pregnancies achieved, 25,000 live births, 18,000 infants evaluated as sufficiently Mongol for integration. Genghis Khan studies the numbers. And the Qian, 12,000 guards assigned to caravan duty over 2 years, 500 physicians and medical assistants, 2,000 administrative scribes and managers. Compared to garrisoning Jin territory conventionally would require 50,000 soldiers. Indefinitely. Genghis Khan nods slowly. The cost and suffering Yelu Chukai hesitates. It is the first time Genghis Khan has asked this question. Great Khan empires are built on suffering. The question is not whether there is suffering, but whose suffering we choose to enable, and the cost to our own souls. Yelu Chukai has no answer prepared for this. I cannot calculate that, Great Khan. The tent is silent except for the wind outside. Neither can I. But the system continues. Subadai delivers his own report that week, not about logistics or numbers. About morale. Great Khan, the men grow troubled. They understand conquest. They understand killing. But this what we are doing in the caravans, it is not warfare as we knew it. Some of the soldiers, the ones assigned to the breeding duties he pauses. They are breaking how desertion, drink, to have taken their own lives. Genghis Khan listens. His face reveals nothing. Tell them this. They are not committing atrocities. They are building an empire. What we do in 1 generation will echo for 1,000 years. If that is too heavy a burden for them to carry, they may request reassignment. But they may not question the purpose. Subadai bows, leaves, delivers the message. Most of the soldiers stay. Some request reassignment. 2 more kill themselves in the following month. The system continues. By 1220, Zarya has been in the caravan for 8 months. She has learned Mongol well enough to understand orders, learned the routines, learned which guards are violent and which are merely indifferent. She has also learned how to hide things. Scraps of fabric, pieces of charcoal. She writes constantly. Short entries, names of women in her wagon, women who die, women who are transferred, women who give birth, the fates of their children when she can learn them. She develops a network. 12 women in her wagon. Slowly, carefully, she recruits them. Not to escape. Escape is impossible. But to share information. To document. Hand signals. A touch to the right cheek means a guard is approaching. Hair pulled to the left side means it is safe to whisper. Hands clasped behind the back means danger. Silence stop. They share what they observe. Guard shift patterns. Physician routines. The schedules of wagon inspections. Zarya records it all. One of the women in her network is Tuya, the noblewoman. 2 months ago, she gave birth to a daughter. The baby was taken after 3 days. Tuya has barely spoken since. But slowly she begins to participate. She teaches the others the mannerisms of aristocracy, how to speak in ways that suggest deference and cooperation, how to make the guards and administrators see them as compliant. It is strategic. It is survival. In the 7th month, a woman named Naran attempts escape. She is from Zarya's wagon, 20 years old, strong, fast. She runs during the 3 a.m. shift change. The gap Zarya's network is identified as the weakest point in security. She makes it almost 200 yards before they catch her. They bring her back, tie her to a post in the center of the caravan. And for 3 days they torture her. Not quickly, not with mercy. They make it a lesson. On the 3rd day she dies. Her body is left on display for another day, then dumped. The network does not collapse, but it changes. The goal is no longer escape. The goal is simply to ensure that what happens here is not forgotten. Zarya writes Naran's name, the date, the manner of her death. She is not a number. She was Naran. She was 20 years old. She tried to be free. In the 9th month, a physician notices that Zarya has missed 2 menstrual cycles. She is examined, confirmed pregnant. She is transferred to the early pregnancy wagon. The diet improves, more protein, herbal supplements, daily examinations. Everything designed to maximize the chances of a successful birth. Zarya learns she is far from alone. The early pregnancy wagon holds 40 women, all in their 1st or 2nd trimester. They do not speak much. What is there to say? But Zarya watches, observes, continues to document when she can. In the late pregnancy wagon, she witnesses 20 births over 2 months. The process is industrial. A woman goes into labor. She is moved to a birthing area, attended by a physician and 2 assistants. The birth happens. The infant is immediately taken, evaluated, Mongol features or not. If yes, the baby is cleaned, wrapped, sent to a nursery wagon. The mother is allowed to nurse for 3 days. Then the baby is taken permanently. She will never see it again. If no, the baby is removed from the area. What happens after, no one says. But the baby does not return. One night, Zarya witnesses something that will stay with her forever. A woman named Oyun from the Uyghur territories gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The physician examines both infants under lamplight, takes his time, consults with an assistant. The boy, acceptable Mongol features. Keep. The girl, eyes too round, nose too flat. Process. The boy is taken to the nursery wagon. The girl is carried out of the tent. Oyun, still bleeding, still weak from childbirth, begins to scream. Not words, just sound, raw and endless. They restrain her, try to force her to nurse the remaining baby. She refuses, bites anyone who comes near. By morning she is dead, hanging from a wagon support beam using a strip of cloth torn from her own clothing. The report listed as suicide due to post-birth complications. Zarya adds her name to the cloth records. Oyun, Uyghur, mother of twins, refused to accept the theft, chose death over compliance. In the 11th month, Zarya goes into labor. 16 hours. The pain is unlike anything she has experienced. No one offers comfort. This is a medical procedure. Efficiency is the priority. She gives birth to a girl. The physician examines the infant. Takes longer than usual. Consults notes. Measures features against some internal standard Zarya cannot see. Borderline, eyes too round. But skin tone acceptable. Hair color within parameters. Another physician is called in. They confer. Conditional acceptance. Reevaluate at 6 months. If features shift toward non-Mongol process at that time, the baby is clean, handed to Zarya. She is allowed 3 days. She names her Alara, does not speak the name aloud. Only whispers it into her daughter's ear when no one is watching. On the morning of the 3rd day, Khatun, the older woman from Zarya's original wagon, now serving as a midwife assistant in the birthing unit, comes to take the baby. She sits beside Zarya, speaks quietly. They will come in 1 hour. You need to decide. Fight and die now or survive and remember her. Zarya looks at her daughter, 3 days old, tiny fingers curled in sleep. If I fight, you will be killed. The baby will still be taken. And your records, the names you have written, they will be found and destroyed. Everything you have done will be erased. And if I let her go, you live. You continue documenting. And maybe someday someone will know what happened here. Maybe your daughter will be one of the ones who survives. Maybe she will have children. Maybe your blood will persist, and the record you keep will be the only proof that you were her mother. Zarya holds Alara for the remaining hour, memorizes her face, whispers her name over and over. Your name is Alara, daughter of Zarya of Ningxia, remember. When they come, she hands over the baby without resistance. They transfer her to a postpartum wagon. 2 weeks of monitoring, then back to acclimatization. The cycle will begin again. That night, she takes out the cloth, adds a new entry, Alara, born month 11, conditional acceptance. Taken day 3. I will never stop being her mother. She folds the cloth, hides it, and survives another day. Khwarezm Empire, 1219 to 1221. Central Asia, cities of legendary wealth. Bukhara, Samarkand, Merv. The Mongol invasion is retribution for an insult. A governor executed Mongol envoys. Genghis Khan does not forgive such things. The campaign is the largest yet, and the system operates at peak efficiency. In Merv alone, 50,000 women are captured in a single week. The processing stations operate around the clock. Physicians work in shifts. Scribes develop shorthand to keep pace with the volume. It is in Samarkand that Dr. Jahan reaches his breaking point. He has been serving the caravan system for 8 years. He is 50 now, recognized as one of the most skilled physicians in the Mongol Medical Corps. His techniques for improving pregnancy rates have been adopted across all caravans. He has personally overseen the processing of tens of thousands of women. He is also by Mongol protocol required to participate in breeding duties. Physicians are considered valuable genetic stock. Their children are prioritized for integration. In the chaos of Samarkand's fall, he is assigned a woman. She is from a noble family. 24 years old, educated, she speaks Persian. They are able to communicate. He does what is required, tells himself it is no different than the 1,000 other times, that he is a tool of the system, not the system itself. 3 months later, he is conducting a routine examination in the medical wagon when he recognizes her. She is pregnant. He checks the records. The father is listed as himself. The system has protocols for resistance, ways to identify women who are attempting to abort pregnancies, self-induced vomiting, herbal ingestions, physical trauma. He examines 12 women that day, finds evidence of resistance in 3 of them. Protocol requires him to report them. He reports them. Their names are added to a list. That night, all 3 are executed publicly as a deterrent. The next morning, he learns that one of the 3 was the woman who is carrying his child. She is dead. The child is dead. He writes a letter, not to anyone specific, just writes, I became a monster to survive. But what has survived is not me. It is something wearing my face, something that has forgotten what it means to heal instead of harm. I cannot undo what I have done. I cannot restore what I have taken. But I can stop. He places the letter in his medical bag. That night, he uses a scalpel, clean, precise, a physician's death. They find him in the morning. The letter is read, filed, forgotten. Another physician is assigned to his station. The system continues. By 1221, the caravan system has reached a scale that defies comprehension. Estimates suggest 200,000 women are in motion across the Mongol Empire at any given time. Wagons stretching from Mongolia to Eastern Europe, supply lines, medical stations, administrative centers. It is an empire within an empire, a parallel structure dedicated entirely to biological conquest. Genghis Khan, now 59 years old, writes a letter to Subadai. Old friend, you asked me once if this troubles my sleep. It does. Every night, I dream of Borte. I dream of the night they took her. I dream of the look on her face when she came back to me carrying another man's child. I think of our people, scattered across the steppes, starving, powerless. I chose this path so that no Mongol child would ever feel that powerlessness, so that our blood would spread so far and so deep that no enemy could ever erase us. History will judge me. I know this. But my descendants will inherit the world. And perhaps that is enough. The letter is never sent. It is found among his papers after his death. August 12, 27. Genghis Khan dies during his final campaign against the Tangut Kingdom, the same kingdom where the system was first tested. Poetic, deliberate. His last words to his sons are recorded by multiple sources. The empire of land may fall, cities may be retaken, borders may shift, but the empire of blood cannot fall. It is written into the future itself. Hold the land if you can, but hold the bloodlines above all else. The transition of power is managed by Yelu Chukai with the same administrative precision he applied to everything. Ogedei, Genghis Khan's third son, is proclaimed Great Khan, and the first act of the new administration is a purge. Protocol dictates that during transitions of power, high-risk elements must be eliminated. Women who have been captured within the last 6 months, who have not yet been fully processed, who might retain enough cultural memory to inspire resistance during a vulnerable moment. Approximately 40,000 women are executed over a 2-week period. Mass graves are dug in advance. Efficient, organized, merciful only in speed. Zarya is 21 years old. She has been in the system for 7 years. She has given birth 3 times. All 3 children were evaluated as acceptable. All 3 were taken. She has never seen them again. She survives the purge. Women with multiple successful births are considered too valuable to waste. She stands in her wagon listening to the sounds of execution in the distance. Systematic, methodical. And she thinks he is dead. The great Khan is dead. But the machine lives. The machine continues under Ogedei. From 1227 to 1241, he drives the Mongol armies into Europe, Poland, Hungary, the gates of Vienna, and behind the armies the caravans follow. 30,000 European women are processed, blonde hair, blue eyes, integrated into the genetic mix. Ogedei's son Mongke takes power in 1251, turns his attention to the Middle East. In 1258, Baghdad falls. The Abbasid Caliphate, 5 centuries old, destroyed in a week. 20,000 women, Persian, Arab, integrated. Kublai Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, establishes the Yuan dynasty in China in 1260. For the next 30 years, the system is institutionalized as government policy. Marriage bureaus, official protocols, 500,000 women over 3 decades. By the time the Mongol Empire fractures in the early 1300s, the genetic impact is irreversible. Zarya lives until 1251. She is 45 years old when she dies. The records do not specify how. Illness, exhaustion, despair. Does it matter? She has spent 31 years in the system, 7 pregnancies. 5 resulted in births that were accepted. She never saw any of her children after they were taken. But she wrote. For 31 years she wrote. The cloth records grow. When one piece of fabric is full, she hides it in the wagon structure. Hollow beams, gaps in the floorboards. Starts a new piece. By the end, she has documented 2,341 women. Names, origins, dates of capture, dates of death or transfer. Children born, children lost. Her final entry is brief, 31 years. I have survived because I refuse to let them erase us completely. To whoever finds this, we were not numbers. We were not data. We had names, we had mothers, we had dreams. The Khan won. His blood is in millions now. But our voices are in these words. Let history judge who truly conquered whom. Zarya of Ningxia, survivor. The cloth is hidden, and Zarya's name vanishes into the silence of history. Until 1995. Uzbekistan, near the ancient site of Bukhara. Archaeologists excavating a medieval trade route uncover something unexpected. A mass grave. 217 skeletons, all female, age range 14 to 40, all from the same time period. 13th century, the bones tell stories, malnutrition, untreated fractures, signs of multiple pregnancies, pelvic damage consistent with repeated childbirth in suboptimal conditions. They are buried separately from the male graves found nearby, deliberately segregated. Over the next decade, similar graves are found across Central Asia. Samarkand, Merv. Patterns emerge. Young women. Violent deaths. 13th century. In 2003, a team from Oxford University publishes a genetic study. Dr. Tatiana Zerjal and her colleagues have analyzed Y chromosome data from populations across Asia and Eastern Europe. They identify a genetic marker that appears in an extraordinary number of men. 16 million men alive today share a common male ancestor from approximately 1,000 years ago. The geographic distribution matches the Mongol conquests exactly. Highest concentration in Mongolia and Central Asia. Significant presence in China, the Middle East, Eastern Europe. Statistical analysis suggests this ancestor had access to an unprecedented number of reproductive partners, far beyond what random chance or even polygamy could explain. The paper's conclusion is careful, diplomatic. The data is consistent with a sustained and systematic reproductive strategy during the Mongol expansion period. In academic terms, this means Genghis Khan and his descendants engineered the most successful genetic conquest in human history. The paper makes international news, genetics journals, history departments. It even reaches the Pentagon, where analysts add it to their files on biological warfare. 16 million people, 0.5% of the male population of Earth. The most successful biological conquest in history wasn't a weapon, it was a man. In 2015, Dr. Marcus Rothenberg, a 62-year-old historian from Stanford, is conducting research in Beijing. He specializes in Mongol military history, administrative documents, supply chains, the logistics of empire. He has granted access to archives that have recently been declassified, among them a collection of documents from the Yuan dynasty, administrative records, census data, and there in a box that has not been opened in 700 years, he finds Yelu Chukai's blueprint, the complete system design, protocols for pre-conquest census, classification categories, processing procedures, metrics for success, cost-benefit analyses comparing caravan operations to conventional military occupation. Rothenberg reads for 3 days straight. When he emerges, he is shaking. This wasn't collateral damage. This wasn't the inevitable brutality of war. This was the strategy. He publishes his findings in 2018. The academic community erupts, conferences, debates, shouting matches disguised as scholarly discourse. One side, this is biological warfare, mass rape systematized. We must call it what it is. Other side, by the standards of their time, this was strategic genius. Every empire engaged in similar practices. The Mongols simply applied administrative efficiency. Ethicists' intent matters. Genghis Khan chose this deliberately. That choice has moral weight regardless of era. Counterjudging historical figures by modern standards is intellectually dishonest. Rothenberg sits through these debates, listens, and slowly his position evolves. At first, we must understand history objectively. Avoid presentism. Context matters. After months, but objectivity cannot erase moral truth. Understanding why something happened does not mean accepting that it should have happened. Finally, Genghis Khan succeeded beyond his wildest imagination. 16 million people prove it. The genetic evidence is irrefutable. But the question we must ask is not whether he succeeded. It is whether success justifies the method. And I cannot answer that question for you. Each person must answer it themselves. In 2024, a small museum in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, receives an unusual donation. An elderly woman, 93 years old, brings in a collection of fabric pieces, old, fragile, wrapped in protective cloth. These belonged to my great-great-grandmother. She said they were sacred, that we must preserve them. I do not know what they say. The writing is in a script I do not recognize. The museum curator examines them carefully, calls in a specialist in ancient languages. The specialist identifies the script, Tengut, an extinct language from northwestern China. They translate, and they realize what they have found. Zarya's records, 2,341 names, testimonies, dates, a record of the caravan system from inside. The museum contacts Dr. Rothenberg. He flies to Tashkent, spends a week examining the cloths, reading, cross-referencing with Yelu Chukai's administrative documents. Everything matches, the protocols, the numbers, the timelines. But more than that, the cloths provide something the administrative records cannot. Names, he arranges for the cloths to be displayed. A new exhibition at the museum. The Silent Witnesses Women of the Mongol Empire. The exhibition opens in October 2024. It features the archaeological evidence, the genetic studies, Yellow Chukai's documents, and Zarya's cloths. A placard beside the display reads, 16 million people alive today carry the genetic legacy of the Mongol conquests. Each one represents a woman who endured, who resisted, who survived long enough to bear children, who bore children, who bore children. Most of their names are lost. 2,341 are not. Dr. Rothenberg gives the keynote address at the exhibition opening. Genghis Khan died 797 years ago, but 16 million men carry his Y chromosome. His genetic empire succeeded beyond anything he could have imagined. We can condemn his methods. We should condemn them. But we cannot deny his success. The women he enslaved are mostly forgotten, erased from the chronicles, reduced to statistics in administrative documents, except for these 2,000, saved from oblivion by a 14-year-old girl who refused to let them become only numbers. Perhaps that is the real legacy, not who won, but who refused to be forgotten. The exhibition attracts visitors from around the world, geneticists, historians, descendants. People take DNA tests, discover connections. Some find they carry the Mongol marker. Others trace maternal lines back to the conquered regions. One man, a software engineer from Kazakhstan, age 34, discovers through genetic testing that he is a direct descendant of Genghis Khan's line. He stands in front of Zarya's cloth for a long time. Then he takes out his phone, starts researching, tracing. 6 months later, he publishes his findings online. I am descended from Genghis Khan. That is genetic fact. But I am also descended from someone in those caravans. A woman whose name I will never know, who endured horrors I cannot imagine, who survived long enough to have a child, who became my ancestor just as surely as the Khan did. Both legacies live in me. I choose to remember both. His post goes viral, millions of views, thousands of comments. People from Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, Poland, Hungary, all sharing their own stories, their own genetic discoveries. The conversation shifts. It is no longer just about conquest. It is about survival, about the women who endured, about memory. In Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, there is a statue of Genghis Khan, 40 meters tall, stainless steel, gleaming. Tourists visit by the thousands. In Tashkent, in a small museum, there is a piece of cloth, faded, fragile. Visitors number in the hundreds per year. But those who come, they stay. They read. They remember. History is written by victors, but DNA does not lie, and neither do the dead. If you are watching this, if you have ancestry from Central Asia, East Asia, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, there is a statistical possibility that you are descended from Genghis Khan. There is an equal possibility that you are descended from the women in his caravans. Both legacies live in you. Both legacies deserve to be remembered. The empire of land fell centuries ago, borders shifted, dynasties collapsed. But the empire of blood remains. 16 million men carry the conqueror's genetic signature. Billions carry the genes of the conquered. And in a museum in Tashkent, 2,341 names stand witness. We were here. We had names. We refused to be forgotten.